We have been waiting for the ice queen to drop for about 4 months now, and to our surprise, she's going to be the third destruction DPS character we get pretty much in a row. However, no other path would have really fit her better because that's exactly what she does. She just destroys. So in this video, we're going to go over everything there is to know about Jingliu, from her kit to her best light cones to her recommended relic sets, what you're getting when you empty your bank account to get more copies of her, and also her best teams and character synergies. As usual, I gotta catch some of y'all lacking with today's subscriber challenge, so if you are going to pull for Jingliu and you have not pre-farmed for her materials yet, first of all, what you doing, bro? Second of all, go and click on the video up here or up there, wherever. Check out my pre-farm guide, link in the description below. Third, you gotta drop a like and a subscribe to the channel because you just didn't prepare for Ice Queen Mommy. Also want to thank you guys for 2,500 subscribers on the channel. I really appreciate every single one of you. It really means a lot. With that being said, let's get right into the video. The Ice Queen is an incredibly powerful damage dealer that sacrifices her teammates' HP in order to deal extra damage. Stat-wise, she has the second highest HP at 1435. She has 679 attack, which makes her the 6th out of everybody in the game. She's tied with Kafka and Jingliu. But that's not really a concern because she gets so much attack in her kit that is not even funny. Her defense is 485, speed is 96, which is not terrible. I mean, it's pretty bad actually. And then the taunt value of 125 being a destruction character. As far as her kit, I'm going to start off by explaining her talent first, since understanding how the talent works will make the rest of her kit easier to explain. Jingliu basically has two forms. She has her normal form, she also has her spectral transmigration form, which we're going to call transform state. The way you go from one form to another is by either gaining or losing stacks of syzygy, which for the sake of simplicity in this video, I'm just going to call them Zizzy stacks. There are 3 ways of gaining Zizzy stacks. The first one is going to be using her skill when she's in her normal form. This will cost 1 skill point and will deal ice damage equal to 200% of her attack to one enemy, and will also gain 1 Zizzy stack. The second way of gaining Zizzy stacks is by using her ultimate, which will deal splash damage equal to 300% of her attack to one enemy and 150% of her attack to adjacent enemies, kind of like Blade and Invisible Lane, how they splash damage to the adjacent enemies, also gaining 1 Zizzy stack. The energy cost of this ultimate is 140, which is very high, so skills is going to be the primary source of you gaining the Zizzy stack. The third and final way of getting the Zizzy stack is by using her technique outside of battle. Her technique does a lot more than just give her a Zizzy stack, but for now, this is all you need to know. If you activate her technique while outside of battle, she will start the battle with 1 Zizzy stack. When you gain a second Zizzy stack, Jingliu will automatically go from her normal form into spectral transmigration form, which is your transform state. This will increase her crit rate by up to 50%, and she will take another turn by advancing herself forward by 100%. While in this form, she can only use 1 skill. You can't use your basic attack, she can only use a skill, and it will no longer consume skill points. It will now consume 4% of each of your party members' HP, excluding Jingliu. So all of her teammates will get chipped off by 4% every time she attacks in this transform state. This does include her ultimate while she's in this state. Now, that 4% that she consumes from everybody, she will then take that amount and then increase her own attack by 540% of that HP consumed, which is a massive attack buff. So just as an example, if you have a Fushuan with 7,000 HP, you will chip away 280 from Fushuan. If you have a Blade with 6,000 HP, it will chip away 240. And if you have a support like Bronya with 3,000 HP, she will chip away 120. They will add up all those numbers, which is like 640. And then you times that times 5.4, which is 540%. And she will get an extra 3,456 attack. Pretty beefy buff if you ask me. It's also worth noting that the attack increases she can receive from her talent is capped to 180% of her own attack. So the higher attack that you have with your Jingliu, the higher your cap, so the higher the attack increase. Okay, when she's transformed, her skill is now going to deal 250% of her attack to one enemy and 125% to adjacent enemies, and it's also going to consume 1 Zizzy stack. It's important to note that using her ultimate during her transform state will increase your Zizzy stacks by 1, extending your duration of the transform state for an extra turn. But that also means that whenever you're doing your ultimate, it'll also consume 4% of your allies' HP to increase damage. Lastly, when you activate Jingliu's technique, she will create a circle around her that freezes any enemy it comes in contact with and also breaks destructible items around the map, which is amazing for the Swarm Disaster minigame and domains. Also, entering a battle with her technique active is going to give the Ice Queen 15 energy, give her 1 Zizzy stack, and 100% base chance to freeze enemies. It's also going to make it to where frozen enemies cannot take action, and they will receive 80% of Jingliu's attack in extra damage every time they take a turn. That technique is absolutely nuts. It's crazy. If giving herself 50% crit chance didn't make Jingliu the easiest DPS to build in the game, she also gives herself really amazing stat buffs via her traces. She's getting around 37% extra crit damage, 9 speed, and 10% HP just off her traces alone. Her other traces will increase her effect resistance by 35% while transformed. Another one will increase her ultimate damage by 20%. The other one is going to advance her action 10% every time she uses her skill outside of her transformed state. Overall, really nice trace package that Jingliu has. As I said before, Jingliu is extremely easy to build and also very free to play friendly to build as well. Let me show you a few ways you can build her yourself so you can have a very strong Ice Mommy. Starting with the obvious, a 4-piece Hunter set is fantastic, giving her 10% ice damage and 25% crit damage increased by 2 turns whenever she performs her ultimate. Given that she already gives herself 50% crit chance already in her build just for free, you don't have to go too hard on building crit rate in order to take full advantage of the crit damage buff of the 4-piece Hunter set. Another set is my personal favorite, is going to be the 4-piece Quantum set for the unconditional 10% defense shred and the conditional 20% defense shred if you're going against a quantum weak enemy. And this is my personal favorite, and it works really nicely in Swarm Disaster. And since those bugs are extremely annoying, I will take extreme joy in swatting them away while ignoring 20% of their defense. As far as planar ornaments go, I did change my mind since my pre-farm video. So my new recommendation is going to be the Rudolin Arena. If you build at least 20% every time she's transformed, she's going to activate the Rudolin Arena 20% damage increase, which she desperately needs because she doesn't really get it anywhere else except from her light count, which we're going to talk about later. Also, if you want to min-max her damage, you can also build 50% crit rate. This will only guarantee that she's always going to crit whenever she's transformed, and also she's going to have a 50% chance of critting whenever she's not transformed, which is also very nice. My second recommendation is going to be the 2-piece Salsodo for the 15% damage increase on her ultimate, which is a bit worse than Rudolin Arena, but it's also very viable. I don't think it's really gonna matter at the end of the day. She also activates Salsodo for free since you only need 50% crit rate to activate it, so you don't really have to stress building crit rate on her relics too much if you're going for the Salsodo build. Regardless, I would shoot for the 50% crit rate or as close to 50% crit rate as you possibly can. Space Healing Station can also work, but she's already getting a bunch of attack percentage increase in her kit already, so it's gonna be a little bit of diminishing returns, but it's still viable if you don't have anything else. All right, out of all of these, Rudolin Arena is probably going to be the best when it comes to DPS output, and it's also the most effective to farm since you're also farming Broken Keel at the same time you're farming Rudolin Arena. So that's also a plus. Going over her recommended main stats for her relic sets, the chest piece is going to run a crit damage chest, is by far the best option. Crit damage body is always going to be best, especially since she already gives herself 50% crit rate. I think just go for the crit damage body. It doesn't matter what it is. Go for the crit damage body. Boots, I have 2 viable options when running Jingliu, and it really depends on what support you're planning on running with Jingliu. So for attack boots, I recommend if you're running a faster Bronya. If you're running a Bronya with 134 speed, 135 speed, and you run attack boots and Jingliu, then attack boots is going to yield a lot of damage. If you're not running Bronya and you're instead running Tingyun, then I recommend running speed boots on her since she has to take turns in order to get Zizzy stacks via her skill, and then Tingyun will get her other stack via her ultimate. If not, then you're gonna have a slow Jingliu and then nobody to push her forward, and then she's gonna take so long to get her Sizzy stacks back up to 2. As far as orb, ice damage is going to be best in slot, but attack percentage is also viable. And as far as her robe, attack percentage is very strong. It's probably your best option if you're running her with Tingyun. But if you're running her with Bronya, then I would probably run energy recharge robe because this means that she'll get her second ultimate in 4 actions instead of 5. In my opinion, I'd rather run energy recharge robe any day of the week because I just like running energy recharge robe. At the end of the day, I don't think it matters that much. Run whichever one of the 2 you have that has the better substat. Speaking of which, the substat priority is going to be as follows. He's going to prioritize crit damage, then a little bit of crit rate up to 50. Once you get to 50%, you can stop prioritizing crit rate. Then after that, you can do for attack and then speed. In all honesty, it's already hard enough to get crit rate and crit damage in the same relic. So, I mean, just go for whatever you have. As long as you have at least 20% and then dump the rest into crit damage, you should be fine. It's really not big of a deal. Obviously, unless you're going for extreme min-maxing, you know? To no one's surprise, your signature light cone is her best in slot. This light cone is honestly kind of insane. It increases your crit rate by 20% Also, whenever an ally gets hit or has their HP consumed, Jingliu will gain 1 stack of Eclipse, which will increase your damage output by 12%. This can stack up to 3 times, and whenever you get the 3 stacks, your next attack will ignore 12% of your enemy's defense. I can't understate how crazy this Lycone is by itself, but with Jingliu, in her transformed state, she will always get the 3 stacks immediately after launching an attack because she absorbs or consumes 4% of every ally's HP, which means every attack that she does will do 42% more damage, and it will also ignore 12% of the enemy's defense. This is absolutely busted, and there is no other Lycone that even comes close. It's actually kind of crazy. My second recommendation is also the most free-to-play friendly one, is the Fall of a Neon free-to-play Lycone. It can increase her attack by up to 64%, and whenever she breaks an enemy, she will have her damage output increased by an extra 24% for 2 turns, which to be honest is really good. She can get the 64% attack in about 2 turns or 2 rotations of Jingliu because she attacks so many times. So this is actually a really nice Lycone, especially if you have a superimposed 5, which I think if you're going for Jingliu, you probably should aim for that. Something irreplaceable can also work, but you have to get kills or get hit in order to receive your benefits. So it's not a terrible option, but the free-to-play Lycone is probably going to be better anyways. This part is going to be for the people who are going to be sleeping under a bridge, but they're going to be very comfortable cruising through MOC with their E2 or E1 Jingliu with her Lycone. Her E1 is probably her most impactful Eidolon, since it pretty much makes Jingliu do an insane amount of damage to single target enemies when she's doing her enhanced skill or her ultimate. It increases her crit damage by 24% for 1 turn. Now, remember her skill and ultimate and how they do some damage to one enemy and half of that damage to the other 2 enemies or adjacent enemies? Well, now when she attacks a single enemy, that damage that was supposed to be for the 2 enemies all goes to the main enemy. So essentially, she doubles her damage output when hitting a single target. Mind you that the wording says when attacking a single enemy, so you have to launch the skill or ultimate and only hit 1 enemy. This is the only way you're going to receive the extra damage. In my opinion, this is the only Eidolon I would recommend because it honestly makes her extremely busted. But I know people are going to go for all of them. So her E2 is just going to be a damage increase for her skill by 80% after she ults. Her E4 essentially increases the attack percentage gain from her talent from 540% to 630%, and the cap from 180% to 270%. Essentially a colossal attack increase. Finally, her E6 makes it to where she gains 1 Zizzy stack as soon as she transforms, and also increases her crit damage by 50% as well when she's in her transformed state. Yeah, E6 Jingliu is going to be slapping. All right, moving on to her best synergies and teammates. If you're a Blade main like I am, then you must be very hyped to run him alongside the Ice Queen, as she's incredibly synergistic with him. She'll be helping Blade trigger his follow-up attack and getting more stacks more often every time she uses a skill. And in MOC, if you run a faster Jingliu, you can scale into her transformation, skill again, giving Blade 1 stack. If you kill someone, you'll be able to ult, which once you ult, you're gonna give Blade another stack. Then if you have Bronya, you can send her back up, skill again in your transform state, giving Blade another stack. Now, when Blade takes a turn and he goes skill into enhanced basic attack, he will immediately trigger his follow-up attack on the first turn, which, I mean, I don't know how optimal that really is as far as DPS output, but it sure sounds cool as to do, you know? Honestly, I'm very hyped about the Jingliu Blade combo, not gonna lie. Now, we already mentioned Bronya, so let's talk about Bronya. Bronya is one of Jingliu's best buffer supports, as she normally is for everyone, but essentially she will allow Jingliu to get her stacks back up quicker and allow her to run attack boots instead of speed boots. Keep in mind that if you use your skill on Jingliu when she's in her normal state to gain that second synergy stack, whenever she transforms, she will not have Bronya's buff because the Bronya buff is only for 1 turn and she used it when she did the first skill to transform in the first place. So just keep that in mind. The second one is going to be Tingyun, and Tingyun is honestly competing with Bronya as best buffer support because Tingyun allows Jingliu to fire off ultimates more often without having to run an energy regen rope. Ulting with Jingliu is super important, and Tingyun also increases her overall damage output by increasing her attack and also her damage itself. Now, we already talked about buffer supports, but Jingliu actually works a lot better with debuffer support, specifically defense shredding debuffers such as Silverwolf and Pela, which are the 2 that we're going to talk about next. Silverwolf offers a big chunk of defense shred using her bucks and ultimate, and she also enables Jingliu to run the 4-piece quantum set without having to worry about what the enemy is weak to. Defense shred is the biggest DPS buff for Jingliu since it lies on the enemy and not Jingliu herself. given this takes so many turns, buffs on Jingliu last for a lot shorter period of time than debuffs on the enemy. Now, speaking of debuffers again, let's talk about Pela, especially Pela at E4 with her ice resistance shred. Honestly, Pela is giving Silverwolf a run for her money as far as debuffer supports. The ice resist reduction and the AoE defense shred is honestly it's chef's kiss. And as we previously discussed, debuffs will work better with Jingliu, and Pela offers really good debuffs that both contribute immensely to Jingliu's DPS output. Now for sustains, Fu Xuan actually works with Jingliu, contrary to what people have been saying. She works really well with Jingliu actually, as well as Luocha. Those are going to be her two main solo sustain options. Luocha is a much better option as far as sustaining goes, since his healing field will nullify Jingliu's HP drain from her teammates. Fu Xuan offers a more offensive sustain option for Jingliu, as her HP increase buff actually indirectly buffs Jingliu's damage output. Also, she increases her crit rate, also increasing Jingliu's damage output. Honestly, either of them should work, but my personal opinion, Luocha is a little bit better because he pretty much nullifies the HP consumption without having to move. Now, if you don't have either of them and you have Bailu, Bailu also works pretty much in the same realm as Luocha, but just a little bit less, because Bailu has to take a turn to heal. Another option is going to be Lynx. I think Lynx works really well because she has a continuous effect healing, which kind of works almost like Luocha, but not quite, but it's still really nice. And also you have Japard and March 7th as sustain options. Note that if you don't have Fu Xuan or Luocha, you're going to have to make compromises on your team composition, because you're going to have to run a shielder and or a healer to be able to sustain your team. Speaking of teams, let's go over a few team compositions for our Ice Queen. The first team is going to be the double support team with Jingliu, Tingyun or Bronya, and then Pela or Silverwolf. You have a buffer, you have a debuffer, and then finally you have a solo sustain in Luocha, Fu Xuan, or a very well built Bailu. This team is going to pretty much cover all the bases, but the only caveat is that your main sustain, your solo sustain, is going to have to be really well built to be able to handle solo sustaining, if it makes any sense. But yeah, this seems pretty easy to build. Jingliu, one buffer, one debuffer, one sustain. The second team is going to be the co-DPS team, which is going to be my personal favorite team, which is going to consist of Jingliu, Blade, Pela or Silverwolf, and then Luocha. The reason I chose a debuffer instead of a buffer is because with a buffer, I'm not going to have enough skill points, or there's not going to be enough buffs to buff both Jingliu and Pela. And by having a defense shred on my enemies is an indirect way of buffing both my DPS units. All right, team number 3 is, I'm going to call it the zero defense Silverwolf team. And essentially going to be Jingliu, Pela, Silverwolf, and Fu Xuan. When you combine Pela's defense shred and Silverwolf defense shred, especially if you're running resolution light cone on both, the enemy's defense shred is going to be pretty much near 100%. So Jingliu can just essentially go ham and just Jingliu go brr, I guess. That pretty much covers everything about Jingliu from my point of view. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Did you pull your Jingliu? How did you pull her? Let me know all about it in the comment section below. And until next time, guys, see ya.